Hey everybody, what's going on? NGS back again for a breaking news announcement video. I've got my longtime friend and video collaborator, Pathogeo-free, Danny D. What's going on, my friend?
Oh, lots and lots.
You know, a lot of people are expecting that the next time we talked about Spider-Man, I'm not even going to get into that right now, because just announced right now, after months and months of speculation, we got the confirmation from Marvel themselves that Sony and Marvel Studios have struck a deal for Spider-Man in the MCU. Drop the mic. That's it. Let's end the video right there. It's over. Go home, everybody. It's over, man. But you know what? We're going to be a bit
Yeah.
more productive in this one. We're going to read off the deal. So, Marvel's Kevin Feige to produce the next installment of the Spider-Man franchise with Amy Pascal. Under the new deal, the new Spider-Man will first appear in a Marvel film from Marvel's Cinematic Universe. Sony Pictures will thereafter release the next installment of its $4 billion Spider-Man franchise on July 28th, 2017, in a film that will be co-produced by Feige and his expert team at Marvel, along with Pascal, who oversaw the franchise launch for the studio 13 years ago. Together, they will collaborate on a new creative direction for the web slinger. Sony Pictures will continue to finance, distribute, own, and have final creative control of the Spider-Man films. And then from there, you guys can read all of this, other junk, because the main meat and potatoes of the article was above. But there is a lot to discuss about this. There's been so much rumor and speculation, honestly, since the release of The Amazing Spider-Man 1 about a potential deal being struck between both Marvel and Sony for the character. And, Danny and I have had our sayings on this in the past, saying that it's very possible for them to strike a deal because it's not as closed off as a lot of people were thinking. Marvel owns more stake in the rights than people think they do, so this would be just a logical step for them. And well, after all this time, we finally get a concrete answer. Danny, what do you got to say about this? I know you have a lot to say on this, as do I. But I've been talking for like 3 minutes straight, so take it away, my friend.
Well, to me, this is both good news and bad. It's bad in that there's still a potential for Marvel to pull some stuff like they've done recently and kind of short sheet the character, but at the same time, it's good because it finally ends a lot of the speculation, all the rumors, and I mean some outright crazy rumors. People insisting that certain things were happening that weren't happening. People insisting that certain people said things they didn't actually say. A lot of hate being thrown around at everyone. Some completely ridiculous rumors. I mean, right down to a Spider-Man movie about Aunt May where she was like a secret agent or something. It got super ridiculous. Um, Sony went from wanting to do a female in the Spider-Man roster, having their own movie, to supposedly wanting an entire team of them, to then, the Aunt May thing, and then, there were rumors that Gwen was going to come back to life and be Spider-Girl because of what happened in the Spider-Verse. It got incredibly stupid, and I'm just glad that all that's over.
Yeah,
Uh,
most
it's one
definitely.
reason that it's one reason that I didn't really want to comment on that a lot. I mean, I kept getting people on Ask FM, on YouTube comments, everything else saying, when are you going to talk about this? What are you going to say about this? What are you going to say about that? The only reason I even bothered to address the Aunt May one is because people were actually picking up and running with that, even long after the studio themselves had confirmed that was absolutely ridiculous. Um, and it was basically just a reason to hate on this and say that Marvel needs the rights back. And I'm kind of happy about this for two reasons. Because, on the one hand, Spider-Man does get to be in the MCU, and that does open him up, and it opens everyone else up for a lot of possibility. They no longer have to worry about, who owns the rights to what character. Spider-Man can finally face off against certain villains that it was debatable whether or not they actually had the rights to, including the Kingpin, which Kingpin is actually in one of my top five Spider-Man villain slots. So if they can actually show those two interacting, fighting, going up against each other, that'd be great. And the Daredevil cameo, that'd be great too. I mean, yeah, Matt Murdock and Peter Parker had like a serious brother relationship going on. Um, but yeah, Matt was basically Big Bro. So, but it was interesting. It opens up with these interesting possibilities, but at the same time, Sony does have say in what happens. And the reason that I say this is Sony, they still control the Spider-Man films. Sony still has majority rights. This is a partnership. And while Marvel does have the right to step in and give some input and tell them, what they'll have to change to make it fit with the MCU, they are still, for the most part, going to maintain their independence. And so that means that a lot of the fears I had about them basically trying to turn him into nothing but a sidekick character or make him incredibly young and naive and have Tony Stark or Steve Rogers basically become his mentor and he has to play junior detective there or whatever the Robin to their Batman, so to speak, the Jimmy Olsen to their Superman. That's not going to happen. They're not going to want that. They're not going to allow that. They're going to want him to have as big a part as he should have. Now, that being said, I know Marvel at the same time is not going to basically let him take complete spotlight. So I'm hoping that this could actually give us a really good, balanced MCU. And I think that because he's there and because he's such a big name draw, that they're finally going to stop shouldering everything onto Tony Stark,
Right.
which honestly I think also ups our chances of Robert Downey Jr. staying on because while he'll still be able to play a big part, he's not going to have to show up in every single movie now to get butts in the seats.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he'll be more likely actually to stay on. Or at the very least, this will buy them some time until they can find a replacement, which they've also said, and RDJ has also said, is going to have to meet his approval. And he said that he will be also coaching the man. So if and when he gets replaced, it's going to be with somebody who both the studio and the actor think are able to play the part. So that's a good thing. But that's a topic for another day. But the point is, this it alleviates a lot of my fears, but it does also open up some new ones. For example, what are they going to keep from the current films?
Yeah, most definitely. I just want to comment on that for a second. Going back to the whole rumor thing that everybody was talking about, I'm just gonna say this. Like, this is where I'm gonna get angry. Danny knows this, and after seeing some of the comments that people have been making about the fact that Spidey's home, I have to say, every single journalist out there is the biggest hypocrite in the world when it comes to this announcement. Ever since the Amazing Spider-Man reboot got announced, everybody and their dog was trying to find ways to derail this movie. They ran on so many different things from production as fact. They were saying that like 30 different villains were going to be confirmed, this, that, and the third. That it just... I've never seen so many people with an agenda to try to sink a movie. And I said, if ever there was a chance that Marvel would get the rights back to use Spider-Man in a movie, everybody would flip their shit and be like, yes, I can't wait to see another Spider-Man movie, after they spent months complaining about the last one and complaining about wanting to see another reboot. But now everybody seems so gung-ho for it. But there is something that we got to talk about, and it's what you mentioned. Where is this going to fit in with the continuity?
Well, yeah, it's gonna be a case. See, okay. The articles are all making it sound like they're almost continuing the franchise, and what I mean by that is that they say the next installment in the franchise. Now, arguably, one could say that they just mean Spider-Man in general, and that the Amazing Spider-Man was just the next installment in Sony's Spider-Man franchise after Spider-Man 3. That's not usually how the term franchising works when you reboot something. Um, so to me, that indicates that they might be sort of trying to continue from from the point of the Amazing Spider-Man 2, while not necessarily continuing on the path that it seemed that the franchise was going to take. And what I mean by that is, sadly, and this is one thing that does really upset me, Andrew Garfield is probably gone. Now, there's a lot of people who are trying to say that this is because Marvel wanted him gone. Honestly, I don't think that's the case. I don't think that Marvel's going to demand that he be gone, especially for the ridiculous reason that people were saying that they wanted him for a different role in the MCU. Andrew, honestly, when you listen to some of the interviews that he had given most recently regarding the franchise, he wasn't terribly thrilled doing these big blockbuster movies. There were too many higher ups that had too much say. He felt took it away from the director. He said it felt very assembly line as opposed to organic. And he also did not really like all the spotlight. He did not like the constant interview and press runs. He's a very private person and he enjoys his privacy, which he made very clear after many, many times of interviewers asking him about his and Emma's private life. He kept having to insist that they stop talking about that because that's their private life.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he was getting a lot of hate for this movie. Emma Stone, even Emma was getting a lot of hate for the movie. There were people calling her a bimbo, etc. Um, and he basically outright said he planned to just do the last movie that he was on contract to do and then leave. And so it really does not surprise me that they just opted to let him go his own way. It's really sad though because I don't think he'll ever get the recognition he deserves for the job that he did.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, I'd rather he end on a high note than have to squeeze out one more movie that he really does not want to do.
Right.
Um, on the plus side though, Avi Arad is gone.
Woo! I'm so freaking hyped. That dude. But we're not getting
Yeah.
into that right now.
Oh yeah, we are.
Well, you can get into it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm gonna
It's
say
just
that.
Avi was the kind of guy who if you remember the Spider-Man animated series,
The one
um
with Neil Patrick Harris or the
no,
oh the
the
'90s one.
original. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh he was the one who really insisted that they tone a lot of things down because parents would be upset even though other Marvel shows even were darker and more violent than that, such as the X-Men cartoon. Uh
Da-na-na-na-na-na.
while it wasn't like super dark, for the time, it was fairly dark. I mean, they were actually showing Wolverine slash people and crap. But when you got to Spider-Man, I mean, the worst that would happen is like an explosion near him might send him flying and knock him out, or gas. Or fights consisted primarily of throwing things at each other or directly picking each other up and throwing each other.
Or in some
So
cases, screaming and scaling up a wall. Shocker!
But yeah, that was him. That was his
Oh.
idea because he didn't want to upset parents. Um, the sudden shift into Spider-Man Unlimited, also his idea. And then when Spider-Man Unlimited wasn't doing very well, but they had just done a cliffhanger season finale, he said, "That's it, we're done, we're not doing this anymore." And the people working on the show said, "Well, can't we at least do, like one last episode to wrap it up?"
Okay.
And he said, "Nope, we're canning it right now as is." So that's why that series ended without any kind of resolution. Um, to quote someone who worked on the staff of that show, Avi Arad cared a lot less about the character and a lot more about the character's market value.
Mm-hmm.
And he probably would have put out a team of Spider-Men split up into Power Rangers colors if he thought it would sell.
Oh,
Which is actually kind of funny considering Japanese Spider-Man, but
yeah, Japan, Spidey, their history, awesome history. But yeah, I mean, I'm very glad that Avi. You see, the thing with Avi Rod, for the longest time, I've had like I wouldn't say a love hate relationship because that makes it seem like I kind of like the guy, but I could see that when it came to the reboot of the films, do you think that he sort of felt personally responsible for all the times he screwed up, and Spider-Man 3 was like the really big moment where he's like, "Oh my bad."
oh, he definitely did, and that's why when they were doing the Venom movie, he was very insistent that it was going to be Eddie Brock because that I think he really thought would be his shot at redemption.
No, no Eddie Brock Jr.
Mm, but see, the thing is, it's just kind of it's sad in a way, but he brings it on himself, I mean, he knew he screwed up, but at the same time, he can't keep his hands off stuff. He really
Right.
can't.
The dude is seriously like
And
not just Spider-Man. He wants to do everything. He's attached to so many video. You remember when he was attached to like all these video game movies that like never got made?
oh, I know the he was attached to the infamous movie, and that never got off the ground because he kept insisting that it had to have this, this, that, and this, and it's like you can't insist that yet. We don't even have anything yet. There apparently he was at one time almost attached to the Uncharted movie.
Oh god.
Um, he's attached to a lot of stuff, but unless other people are there to hold him back, he will try to stick his fingers in a lot of stuff. And Matt Tolmach is not a man who would hold him back. So,
Yeah. but
which I
this
have to admit though, I kind of like Matt in comparison to Avi because Matt just kind of sat back and let things happen. But that's kind of the reason why he was a bad pair with Avi, and that's because he let Avi jump in and mess
yeah,
with stuff.
you've got like different sides of the spectrums. You got like nobody is just say, "Hey, you stop that right there." But I want to segue from Avi Arad being gone from production into what I think a lot of people over the next couple of weeks until we hear some concrete details are going to be doing the speculation on what exactly this movie is going to be. Is it going to be a reboot? Is it going to be a soft reboot? Is it going to be a continuation with a new actor? You know, there's literally nothing that we know so far. This was just an announcement that, hey, we're collaborating, awesome stuff. But, Danny, what do you honestly think would be the best approach for Spider-Man coming into the MCU? We know that Sony still is going to be making movies about him. It's not necessarily a case of, oh, well, we just got the rights back, so we're going to do something our own way. What do you think is the best approach?
Well, honestly, one of the I would keep going from where they are. I wouldn't necessarily heavily go back and reference everything. I wouldn't necessarily keep everything, but like the basics. Like have the reason that the others are aware of him now because of the whole Electro incident. Have the whole reason, Gwen's death, the having to go through that, the emotional maturity. I mean, heck, you could even, fudge with the timeline a little bit and say that, him being depressed and quitting is when Age of Ultron happens or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's why he's not there. It's stuff like that. And I mean, it's entirely possible because I mean that movie was supposed to be set in 2014, and it was then supposed to be the end of 2014, and then 2015 comes and goes, and it's been like almost 6 months, and it could work, I
Yeah,
think.
definitely. I mean, if you're going to be continuing this franchise, which to be honest, I know a lot of people are like, "Oh no, I don't want to continue it." Even less people want a reboot to happen, a third
E-
reboot. Like
exactly,
nobody
but
wants a third reboot to happen. But I just want to finish
yeah.
off that sentence by saying that regardless, if you're going to be continuing this, if you're going to be rebooting it, it's still going to be a wonky timeline. Even if you reboot it, are you suddenly going to have this kid who's like, well, I just got bit by a spider and it gave me powers. You think that has something to do with that alien invasion going around, then gods flying around and all that stuff? It's gotta be weird no matter what happens.
Yeah. But honestly, okay, the reason though that I think they're probably gonna at least keep some of it is because they've been saying that they want a Spider-Man who's like young but not too young. They want him to be established. They want him to be, more emotionally anchored.
Hmm.
And continuing from where they left off gives them that. Now, what they can do then to kind of, ease off that is the whole Sinister Six thing, stretch it out a little bit more, make it feel a bit more organic, introduce some of these other villains more naturally. If they want to, they can even, just ignore that bit altogether. I don't know, but honest, it's if they want to start, with Norman not being dead or something, I wouldn't even complain about that. It's just
Hmm.
there's just a few things that they need to keep. Electro and the Rhino being out of the way would give him, establishment of having done something warranting their attention.
Right.
Gwen's death, would give him the emotional stability. It would, age him appropriately so that he's, not super old, but not so young that he's still a kid. Um, and realizing that he's not alone, and the connotations this has, it could work. It would also allow them to bring in Mary Jane, and I think that they're gonna kind of want to take that angle anyway, especially considering Axel Alonso basically just outright said that Marvel's new comic continuity is going to have those two together again.
Mm-hmm.
So
So more incentive to
yeah, I
have
mean,
them
you
together.
know how they like to change things to fit their movies. Well,
Yeah, how Tony Stark suddenly started looking a lot like Robert Downey Jr. Same thing for
and being more of a sarcastic smartass,
yeah,
and although I really do object to this one, they killed off Happy, his driver, in the comics because he and Pepper were married, and now Tony and Pepper are in a relationship in the
yeah. It's
comics.
definitely one of the times where it's like too
That
much.
that that I think they really shouldn't have.
Yeah, they shouldn't have done that. Just like they shouldn't have modified Hal Jordan in the comics to look like. Anyway, that's a different story for another day. I didn't even know they made a Green Lantern movie.
Yeah,
What?
yeah,
But
but
oh
yeah.
man, but yeah, that's definitely a lot to comment on, especially with Spider-Man. And there's a lot of things that we could say on the film, and the way that we want it to go, and everything leading up to it. I'm excited as a Spider-Man fan, but I'm also worried to some extent. Just even though I know you disagree with me on this, Danny, even though Marvel is trying to fix their shiz with Spider-Man with the comic, I'm still salty over all the stuff that happened in a complete and rapid succession, going from One More Day to freaking Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, killing off Peter Parker in two universes. Like I'm worried. Like that's the one reason why I can't fully 100% get behind this. I'm excited about the crossover potential, but at the same time, you people were complaining about Sony having Spider-Man and Sony ruining Spider-Man when that's what Marvel's been doing with the character, and nobody batted an eye.
Oh, I know. I think that they're on the path to fixing that, but yeah, they don't have the best track record with Spider-Man. But all I could say is thank God Dan Slott's not writing the movies.
Yes, thank you. So,
But but yeah, but while we're on the topic of speculation and Sony and Marvel and things Marvel may do now that Marvel has the rights, well, sort of has the rights, is there are a lot of people. I won't say this is at Marvel because it's not, but there are people out there on social media right now trying to put a lot of pressure on Marvel. Although Marvel, again, is not the person they should because Sony still has final say. But they're trying to put a lot of pressure on Marvel, who will then in turn, if they listen, try to put a lot of pressure on Sony to kind of monkey with the Spider-Man settings, so to speak. Tweak them, turn them, twist them, and possibly have a different Spider-Man. And I don't just necessarily even mean Miles Morales. Although there are people calling for that, but there have been people calling for that for a long time, even though the kid's just not ready right now.
he
He's
isn't.
really not.
He's
But
barely been
I mean, there are people who want them to bring in Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, even though it makes no sense at all. There are
Who?
people who want them to bring in Superior Spider-Man, just completely get rid of Peter Parker and have it be Otto Octavius in Peter's body already.
Just
Don't
cause.
even don't even ask me why. Other people want them to make him very similar to an alternate Earth Spider-Man, where Peter actually cheated on Mary Jane, his wife, with a woman who looked like Gwen Stacy, became an assassin, ran off with Wolverine, and actually became so cold-hearted and brutal that even Wolverine had to grimace a few times.
Did Ninja Theory write that?
Uh, you'd think.
Yeah.
it,
That sounds all kinds of edgy.
it was, and honestly, he was basically the most. He's like the most antithesis. You if you're running the antithesis of the character, that's pretty much it.
Right.
And it's just horrible.
Yeah.
But it worked as a one-shot what if story, I suppose. But no, you do not want that to be your Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And in the end, you have to understand that this is going to be Spider-Man. This is the Spider-Man that's going to be marketed at the mass public. And so this is why this other thing does not make sense, and I really don't think Marvel's going to do it. Um, People say, fine, you don't want to do Miles Morales, then just make Peter Parker black.
Oh God. What?
There are reasons it really does not work. And one of them being, see, when you have cases like, for example, Heimdall. Heimdall's a god. When they made him black, he's a Norse god. He could take whatever appearance he wants. Um, when they made Nick Fury black, they did that because they had already done that in the Ultimate Comics, and they had intentionally based his design on Samuel L. Jackson, and that's why they wanted him to play him in the movies when they got the opportunity, and he agreed to do it, and there you go, and that's why you have Black Nick Fury. He's from an alternate universe, and they did borrow him for the movies. But in terms of Peter Parker, there is no Black Peter Parker, so to speak. And the market, I mean, they're just relaunching their continuity. Peter Parker is in comic, still a white guy, and this is going to cause some marketing issues and confusion if you present to the public at large this black Peter Parker, and then they pick up the comic and it's white Peter Parker, and then what's going to happen? Parents are going to be sitting there, wanting to know why their kid isn't represent or why he's not represented this way in the comics, and
Yeah.
it's just going to cause all kinds of really unnecessary drama that they're not going to want.
I know.
Um,
Yeah.
Now,
Completely.
if you do want a black character to show up in Spider-Man's universe, though, I mean, he's got several that he's worked with. Robbie Robertson was good. Robbie's son, he could interact with him. One character that I really wish they'd bring out just because he had so much potential,
I
even
know
in
where you're going with
comic,
this. I know
and
where you're going with this. I know where you're
and
going with
they
this.
they never used it, and he'd actually be a pretty cool partner slash rival
Here we go.
slash
Here we go. Here
uh
we go.
enemy at some point. I don't know, but Hobby Brown.
There we go. The mother effing prowler. Woo.
Yeah, he was something that was off. Now, I can kind of see at the same time why they might not, just because people are probably going to try to say that he's a Batman knockoff, even though he's not.
Yeah.
But he was, I thought, someone who had a whole lot of potential. He was incredibly smart. Even though he didn't really have a formal education, he was a poor window washer, but he had developed all these different tools from scratch in his workshop to help him with his job, which he was then able to repurpose into gear to actually become a superhero. And I mean, he was married, and even though he was, I think he got married. They were dating at first, and I believe they got engaged. I think they finally got married before he fell off the face of the earth. But he had relationship troubles too that he had to work out. There were some racial issues he had to deal with, but I mean, they were actually handled very well, and they also didn't try to make them a huge, massive focal point.
Yeah. I
Um,
want to comment on
I,
that for a bit. Because
oh
this
yeah,
this
okay.
really bugs me, and
But
I
I,
was gonna do a whole
but
separate video
to
on it.
finish my thought though, I
Go for it.
really do think Hobby Brown, he'd be an awesome character to have. He'd be an awesome role model for kids. He's just got so much potential, man. I'd love to see him.
Word. So going back to the whole everybody wanting to change the race of the character just because you see now I was gonna do a whole separate rant on this at some point. I still am, but I just want to comment on this one in particularly. I don't see how race is such a defining factor in whether or not you are going to get attached to a character. Sure, in certain examples, the race of a character, affects a lot about them, right? But with Peter Parker is so universal not because he's some white guy from Queens. That's not why Peter Parker is so universal. Peter Parker is universal because of the stories that have been told about him. That is why he's so relatable in so many countries around the world. Japan, Asia, like everywhere around the world, everybody loves the story of Peter Parker, and you don't need to make that character black or Hispanic or whatever nationality you want. You don't need to do that for this character. You don't. You just leave him as is. Everybody already relates to the stories, And it's just mind-boggling why people want to go about this route just to change the race of the character. That's somehow going to make him more relatable. If Peter Parker wasn't relatable at all, go tell it to all the Japanese people out there who are freaking loving the crap out of the character. All right, but we've said a lot about the movie, and we can sit here and speculate for till the cows come home. I want to end off this video with talking about Marvel's slate for their upcoming movies has actually changed to incorporate Spider-Man into there. So we already know that Civil War is coming out in 2016. We know Doctor Strange is coming out in November 2016. Spider-Man is the next movie, debuting in July of 2017. Thor Ragnarok has been pushed to Black Panther's release in November 2017. And then Black Panther has been moved to July 2018 following Infinity War Part 1. Captain Marvel is now November 2018. And Inhumans is July 2019. So, Marvel is definitely planning accordingly to fit Spider-Man in there, which is pretty cool. I guess it gives them time to work things around instead of just trying to shoehorn him into movies that are already being written right now and already filmed.
Well, here's the thing. I know Marvel did say that he's got a slated appearance in a Marvel Cinematic Universe film before he finally gets his own.
Right.
Now, normally I'd expect that to be like the end of Age of Ultron or something, but at the same time, just because of how nervous they are about this movie and how, it's been the response for it has been underwhelming, I would not be surprised if they didn't find a way to cameo in Peter Parker in Ant-Man just to get butts in the seats.
Oh, God.
And maybe not even as Spider-Man, but just as Peter Parker. I mean, Hank Pym being a scientist and all.
Yeah, and it was just confirmed, like confirmed. So long, Garfield.
Aw.
And his
Well,
first appearance is in the MCU, and then a solo film in 2017. But back onto the Ant-Man thing.
yeah. I just wouldn't put it past them. Have Peter Parker show up in that. Maybe have like Spider-Man being mentioned at the end of Age of Ultron. And while we're on that note, because the Daily Bugle is going to have to come up at some point, J.K. Simmons is very much still up for coming back, and apparently he told Howard Stern when he was on his show that he may be back indeed.
Oh, snap. There we go.
But but if he can't come back, I do hope though that if they bring him back, they let him play the role a bit more serious and antagonistic, and not entirely for comic relief.
Right.
But because Jameson can be both simultaneously, if you can believe that. But but if you cannot get J.K. Simmons back, I will settle for no less than Terry Crews.
What about Ron Perlman?
Yeah, he'd work, but I mean Terry Crews. I mean, come on, just imagine that as Jameson.
Oh, that would be so. If that
Sitting
happened,
there, yeah, sitting there chewing him out. He gets really mad. Pecs start popping. What are you looking at?
I'd be 100% behind this movie. No, 110% behind this movie. Please make it happen. But I want to end
Product
up.
placement for Old Spice everywhere.
Oh my God! In his office, he has it in his drawer. But I want to end off this video with a tweet that somebody retweeted from Dan Slott. Wasn't supposed to say this, but new issues of Amazing Spider-Man contain hidden messages about Spidey in the MCU. Buy them all. Well, that's the only way they're going to sell the book.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Alrighty.
But,
Well, Danny, you have any final thoughts you want to say, my friend?
well, I want to wish Andrew all the best in whatever he does after this. It's criminal that he'll never get recognized for what a good job he did, but at the same time, he got very burned out by all this, and he got burned out by the negativity and how everyone seemed to absolutely hate his guts on a personal level just because he wasn't Tobey Maguire, and
Yeah.
it's sad, but that's how that goes sometimes. And I really, really do wish him and Emma the best. And Mark Webb, oh, I feel so bad for him. He got the shortest end of this entire stick. But then again, they haven't confirmed that he's never going to have anything to do with it again. I'd like to see him get one more shot without Avi Arad over his head, just so that he can really show people what he can do. Because he can do this if he's given the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, I don't know that that's going to happen. I'd
Yeah.
love to see it, but I don't. I'm not going to hold my breath on that. But I am cautious. I am somewhat cautiously optimistic about this. I am very happy though that Sony gets to basically have a say in this. Sony's very protective of Peter Parker and the legacy of Peter Parker. Um, and I mean, Sony's protective of Peter Parker and Spider-Man right up to friggin' Kaz Hirai. So, um, the fact that they do care. Whether you want to think they did a good job or not, they do care. This is a character they care about. This is a character that the heads of the company even care about. He holds a lot of meaning to a lot of people worldwide, and they understand that and they recognize that. And while Marvel, being able to access him and them being able to access Marvel, it does open up new doors. It's nice to know that they're still going to have a whole lot of say and that protectiveness is going to come forward. And, I really think that we're going to see something that we didn't have the opportunity to see before. And I've got a bit of hope that it's going to turn out to be good, so long as their casting for Peter Parker doesn't suck and they don't try to turn him back into George McFly.
Yeah, so long as they keep it in that young adult range, I would be perfectly content with that, provided that, it's actually a good actor and they don't go the route, as you said, they don't try to emulate, you know, Tobey Maguire for whatever reason. But I do want to end this off on a somber note. I'm gonna miss Andrew Garfield a heck of a lot more than I think I can express. Being a really big Spider-Man fan, Andrew Garfield was the first time I've seen an actor on screen really capture the true essence of Peter Parker straight from the pages of the comic book. Literally, the definition of Spider-Man, and that was just awesome to see. But, you know, I'm a fan. I'm realistic. There may be a really awesome interpretation of the character in one movie, but years down the road, this character is going to appear again, and we may see an interpretation that's amazing for a different part of Peter Parker's life. That's just what you have to accept as a fan of this medium in comic books. So, all the best, Andrew, Emma, Mark Webb. Hopefully, we can see you again soon. Danny, thank you for being here and recording this, almost hour long video.
Oh, you knew I wasn't gonna miss this.
Yeah. And
That being said, though, we do still need to discuss a certain movie.
we do two movies, in fact, two.
Oh, well, yeah,
Yeah,
two movies and a
and
series.
and a series. Yes, a refreshed series. Yeah,
Oh
we
yes,
gotta get
yes.
on to that. But anyway, you guys, I'm a GS signing off for Danny D's World, The Amazing Spider-Man, coming to Marvel Studios in a movie sometime soon. Whether or not it's 2015 or 2016, well, we'll just have to see. Catch you guys later. Peace.
See ya.
Oh man, oh man.